I now call this meeting of the Committee of the Whole to order at 6:08 p.m. Can you please call the roll?
Ms. Pearson?
Present.
Ms. Chavez?
Here.
Ms. McCall?
Present.
Ms. Bennett?
Here.
Mr. Carpenter?
Here.
Ms. Haley?
Here.
Ms. Stanford?
Here.
With 7 present, we have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll now take a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. As we start each meeting, we remember that the mission of the Rockford Public Schools is to collaboratively engage all students in an equitable first-class education for a changing world. And before we go any further, we also would like to thank Kim Pedersen and Aaron Hill, who worked behind the scenes to produce the broadcast of the meeting. And we also would like to welcome Superintendent's Student Advisory Council member, Maylin Tavares Hernandez from Jefferson High School. We are now on the regular portion of the meeting. Item 2A is the meeting minutes from January 6, 2026. Are there any changes, corrections, or addition to those meeting minutes? All right, seeing none, they will be accepted as submitted. Thank you. And then we'll move on to the Stakeholders Committee, which will be led by Ms. Haley.
Okay. It's now time for the Stakeholders Committee portion of the meeting. Let's start by showing our 12-month agenda. Our feature presentation will be about behavior as part of the Brothers for Change Bags initiative. Before we go to that presentation, we want to remind board members of the opportunities available to interact with our students, families, and community each month. Please make sure to check the board calendar on rps205.com on a regular basis for the most up-to-date information. Now, let's look at the good things that are happening in our district. RPS welcomes 62 student teachers for the spring semester. They attended a full-day orientation to kickstart their teaching journey. We are excited to see their growth and success in our classrooms. It was a sticky situation at Carlson Elementary. The Student Council organized a donation drive and collected 500 hats and gloves. Because they achieved their goal, students who met school expectations got to duct tape Principal Scott Rogers and teacher Mrs. Ray to the wall. Way to go, Cougars. East High School newcomer students proudly shared science projects with volunteers and peers using Google Slides and molecule models. They explained favorite molecules and real-life uses, building confidence in academic English. Many arrived in the U.S. less than a year ago. Big moves by the Flynn Middle School chess team. They earned second place out of 13 teams at a tournament last month in Chicago. Even sweeter, back in November, they took first place. Checkmate, champions. RPS Athletics held its Athletic Hall of Fame ceremony at Rumble in the Rock. We honored Coach Mel Gilfillan, one of the longest tenured coaches in RPS, and the 2011 and 2014 Guilford Boys Bowling IHSA state champs. Congratulations, everyone. Last month, West Middle School Kappa students, under the direction of theater teacher Michael Epperson, put on the play that goes wrong. they got to perform in front of 400 students from Westview, Rolling Green, Ellis, Lewis Lemon, and Lathrop Elementary Schools. Next up is items of note with our community partners. The Rockford Promise Scholarship application is now open through this Thursday. High school students can apply for the chance to attend college tuition free. Don't miss this life-changing opportunity. Apply now before the deadline at rockfordpromise.org. Now in legislative news. Lawmakers return to Springfield for the 2026 session. Bill introductions will run through February 6th, which is the deadline for new bills. The focus of this session will be on responding to federal cuts from the recent reconciliation bill, H.R. 1, which exacerbated the state's deficit. We are working with our lobbying team that continues to advocate for district priorities in legislative conversations. Now for some internal and external news. School Board President Paul Carpenter has been invited by the Illinois Association of School Boards to serve as its representative on a new state task force led by the Illinois State Board of Education to address chronic absenteeism. The task force was created through new state legislation, and its membership has now been finalized, with the first meeting scheduled soon. Paul shared that he is honored to serve and sees this invitation as a testament to the strong focus and hard work Rockford Public Schools has placed on addressing chronic absenteeism. He also thanked Representative Maurice West for his leadership and commitment to this important issue. As board member Tiana McCall mentioned at the school board meeting last month, she attended Kennedy Middle School's Donuts with Grown-Ups. This event was put on by the school's parent liaisons. It was a chance for the students to connect with adults in the community, start the day together, and of course, eat some donuts. It's now time for our feature presentation. Please welcome RPS's 205's Chief of Culture and Student Engagement, Dr. Antoine Reed. Dr. Reed, the floor is yours.
All righty, thank you all. We're going to talk tonight about the BACS framework that we're doing across our district and focus directly on behavior updates. I'm going to briefly talk about where we were, where we are, and where we are going. So in the past, we recognized with behaviors, we had some inconsistencies as we addressed behaviors. We had limited coordination with males of color across our district. They were fragmented in different places, so not a lot of coordination. And without that representation, we had scholars that kind of felt left out. And what we noticed is when scholars see people that reflect them, when you walk in the building, you see them light up, they kind of step up, and they kind of feel inspired, and they want to inspire others. So that representation for us, we noticed that it built trust and motivation and accountability with our scholars. So where we are today, with the Brothers for Change and the Sisters, we're able to provide direct supports for our principals and schools. We have intentional relationships with our scholars, and we have a presence where scholars need us the most. So I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Ragland, who's going to talk specifically about behaviors, and Brother Bruce.
Good evening. Well, I want to explain a little bit. We came together to support our schools, support our principals, and we come together to bring us so that we can provide wraparound services. In addition, we wanted to partner with schools to make them feel whole so the kids can connect with our schools. In addition, we use bag data to drive that, and we do that through a process that we've described as our 4-8 program. And in that 4-8 program, it's encompassing 8 8 days each for each one of those 4. It's a total of 40 days, but it's divided by 8 days each individual day. The first one is we spend those first 8 days relationship building with our kids, connecting with them, establishing relationships with those kids, because if you don't have those relationships, nothing else is really going to work. And then the second 8 days is we work with them to develop accountability. In addition to accountability, we want them to connect them with school leadership and helping them identify social identity so they can fit in their schools. The third 8 days is where we reconnect them and we circle the loop and bring them back to the teachers and allow them to connect within their classroom and help them really understand where they fit in those spaces and help the teachers connect where those gaps are. The fourth one, is at the fourth 8 days, set of 8 days, we bring the families in so it can be a totality of the whole group, so the kid has every component of his life tied into this one thing, into his or her success. Next slide. Okay, so where we need to be, where we need to be is we are working toward connecting our kids and developing a relationship. Can you get the next slide? Okay, cool. Okay, and part of that is just us being proactive and providing those kids the skills that they need in that process, because we really want to hit them early and help them develop those skills, help them develop the right discipline within those classrooms and within those spaces, because what we find is that if we support them and help them find their identity, that's what we talked about earlier about social identity. When that kid feels like he fits in that place, there's an ownership in that place then. And once they have their ownership, they're prepared to take on challenges academically and socially. And in addition to taking on those challenges, we also have found that they will, in addition to themselves, but they'll bring their peers along with them. And I'm going to bring on Brother Bruce to kind of explain a little bit more about what that process looks like in terms of the behaviors.
Thank you, Brother Rack. Good evening. Our philosophy is clear. Behavior is not a compliance issue. It's a developmental skill. Behavior communicates needs, skills, and gaps. Our role is to understand the why, not just respond to the moment. When scholars are prepared, supported, and coached, improved behavior naturally follows. Mindfulness gives scholars tools, not consequences. We teach them to pause, name those emotions, and choose responses. This builds skills they can use in classrooms, at home, and in life. The mindset shift is powerful, from avoiding trouble to understanding that choices shape future opportunities. This is a growth story. We've moved from reactive systems to coordinated relational supports. Where we're going is proactive. Strong Tier 1 systems, earlier intervention, and scalable structures that empower students and fill gaps with care, consistency, and leadership development. In closing, what I want to emphasize most is this. This work is not about a program. It's about alignment. Alignment between relationships, accountabilities, classrooms, and care. Thank you for your time, and we're available for any questions that you may have for us. Thank you.
Ms. Bennett?
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for coming. About how many students for the bags portion specifically? I know I'm sure there's a mix, amongst the B, A, and the G, and the S, but about how many students maybe are exclusively receiving behavior supports?
Yeah, so we currently see about 60 to 80 scholars. So we have a new partnership that starts with Jen Lawrence. That number may be a little higher because we're going to specifically target all our middle schools, and we want to get that relationship started at 4th through 8th grade. So the kids that we do best with at high school, we knew them in middle school. So that is what we want to get started a lot earlier, working 4th through 8th grade. So right now, 60. Jen starts our next cohort with her scholars that'll pick up in the end of March. And so we'll be adding to that. We kind of do a graduation after that first 40 days because we don't see a scholar want to turn around. They kind of get tired of hearing from us every day, and they kind of fall in line because they get calls on Sundays, holidays, no days they get to take off. Wraparound means we need to know what they're doing Saturday, Sunday, 3-day weekends, nights. We don't care. We call and we check in on them. So by the time they finish with that program, they really know we care about you a lot. We're not going to give up on you. So you might as well fall into line, and we might as well build this partnership with our schools.
Thank you. And if any of the students that you're working with that you find out that they need additional resources, like their family or them specifically, or, you know, if there's a barrier that exists, you know, as we said, behavior is a communication of a need, a want, something. So does your team work to provide referrals in the community, connect them with other, you know, Boys and Girls Club, after-school activities, all those things?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a lot of partnerships, one with the Rockford housing projects that are doing various things with our families, because we're recognizing if the scholar has a need, the parent has the same need. So we're able to partner with the housing to help develop those needs. We're looking at teen dating violence when we're looking at that partnership, especially in middle school, recognizing those relationships are not really grounded for them and they need a better understanding. So we're building out agency externally to help us with that. And Jen Lawrence's team, Maureen Kirschman, they have a lot of resources. So the 8 days when you're learning that scholar, you're also learning, hey, what do you need? What are you doing? What are some things you want to be? And so those questions, they want someone to talk to them every day. On my way to work, you know, we all call about 10 scholars, and you don't call a scholar, they might act up in school just because they didn't hear you and they know you're supposed to check in. They need someone to talk to them. So these brothers, especially with Black History Month, are taking an initiative just to reach out and talk to kids. Just how are you doing? And you probably, Ms. Bennett, just talking to them every day means so much. They act tough, like they don't want to get the call. They don't get the call, they texting you, hey, what's up, you okay? So that's the kind of relationship we got going with these scholars right now.
Thank you.
Ms. McCall?
Thank you. First, I'd like to say, you know, thank you for you know, this initiative. I'm very, you know, excited every time we hear an update. It's just very refreshing to hear the progress that you guys are doing. My comment is, could you explain a little bit how you garner support or the relationship, build a relationship with the parents, you know, to make this successful? Because you have to get in with the parent to make sure that the student is receptive of this. And because it's so successful and you guys are, you know, having that attention span for those 40 days, you know, how can it be replicated out for, you know, the entire school, like outside of that program? You know, share a little bit on how those successes has helped you reach these students, please.
So Takana McCall, our HR person, she's looking at how to make sure all schools have a touch point like this. But when you're talking to the kid, the parent is knowing you're talking to them. And to be honest with you, it's that relationship with the people that are talking to them, Mr. Ragland and Mr. Bruce. They can have a different conversation with a parent off the grounds about the things that the parents need. And the parents love, you know, that you're able to come to their place, come to their space. When we went out to their housing and we can sit with them and take that time, they fall in love with listening and understanding. You can love education again. Many of the parents, Ms. McCall, didn't have a great experience with their time in education. So we are trying to tell them, no, it's not like that anymore. This is what your scholar has an opportunity to do. And we're texting the kids, and the parents are knowing all those conversations, and they're using some of those skills at home. The most powerful thing I saw is a kid at Gregory, when his mom is able to teach him his math work before he gets home. That lights her up. Oh, we're going to be doing this exponent stuff today, Dr. Reed. Check it out for me. And then when he gets home, he don't know that mom knew this stuff, and mom is able to teach it for him. That's a new relationship you're building. You want to get it back to the instructional core. You got to let parents know they did it once in COVID, but you are a long-term parent. When we are done, you're still the parent, and we want to empower the parents. And just that conversation on the front end with parents, we're going to empower you to take on these skills and call us if you got any problem, because we're going to show up for our scholar if you need our support. They like having that extra agent of support with them along this journey.
Thank you. And then the last thing.
Can I add with that? In addition to what he talked about, what we found is just connecting with those parents. A lot of our parents view us as educators as a wall. They think that we're unapproachable. Just by us calling and connecting and doing those home visits with those parents, they feel approachable. So now which makes the school approachable. And so that's what we've kind of found, is just tearing down those barriers.
Okay. Did you want to say something? I see the wheels turning. I see the wheels turning. Go on and spit it out.
Well, one thing that I really like to speak with is just working with the students. I'm primarily with behavior, but that doesn't mean that I don't have associations with the A, the G, and the S. So we work with the whole child, the whole student, the whole scholar. But me being part of the B, the behavior, I feel that is the foundation of the rest of the lettering. I really do. It strikes a chord with me, and I express that with all of the students and the scholars that I'm working with. And what I found more so than anything, really, is that they just really need someone to talk to, someone that's going to listen to them, and someone that's going to be understanding and not be so defensive against them, and just listen to what they have to say. They really just need an ear for their voices to be heard. And that, to me, among some other things, is the main part of what the behavior BAGS program is all about, specifically the behavior issue. And that's across the board with all the scholars. A little bit different because every individual is different, but it's the same thing. They need to be heard, and they want to be heard, and they don't really, at that age, exactly know how to express what they're feeling. So, and it's all to do with that behavior.
Thank
yes,
you.
ma'am.
And so, Dr. Reed, my last thing is, can we try to maybe monitor, like, because we're reaching out to these parents and we're getting this, breaking down these barriers and having them rethink of how, participating in their child's education is there a way that we could see if parent participation in the school activities particularly have that gone up, or if we can see if it's, possibly positively impacted that?
Yeah, definitely. When we start the cohort with Jim Lawrence, and specifically to the middle school, I think that's Mr. Rogers can speak. When he has his bag celebration, I've never seen anything like it. He can tell you that the kids that are participating, the parents are knocking the door down. They did an event. Can you explain the bags event you did? How many parents showed up there?
So at West, it's quite difficult sometimes to have a lot of parents come in for various different reasons. However, with our bags program, over the last several years, the parents are excited and enthusiastic about it. And then last year, some of the parents also received awards for their participation. But we had well over 150 parents show up in the middle of the workday for a bags celebration, which we call the Baggies. And so they get their award, and we're excited about having it this year. We invite all you out.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes, thank you. I just want to simply say thank you. The work that you're doing is so vital in our community, in our schools, and supporting our teachers. So that makes a difference. When you can turn around behavior, you can expect better academic achievement. It's a less stressful classroom. So it's a plethora of benefits for the work, or yielding benefits from the work that you're doing. So I just simply want to say thank you.
Ms. Chavez?
Ditto on what Ms. Pearson said. But have there been any unprecedented challenges you guys have had specifically with the behavior Bs, and what have been some solutions to that? And is there any way that the board can support or anything the board can do to help you with that?
No, I think the opportunity is there. I think the more that we talk to a scholar one-on-one and check on them, we recognize that the challenge kind of goes away because they know somebody's going to check on them. It's easy to tell me you're going to school, but if I'm going to check your attendance data the entire day and we're going to talk about it, they don't want to have that conversation. And I think many of these scholars that are having these challenges is because they may not see a reflective model like Brother Bruce and Mr. Ragland. They are coming to school because they're inspired by these young brothers here. They are showing up to show them, hey, I'm not the status quo. I am something different. Let me show you, Mr. Ragland. Let me show you, Mr. Bruce. And as long as you got that relationship that I'm going to reward you and say something positive, because, Ms. Chavez, many times they are not hearing you can win, you can do. They're always hearing what you did not do and what you can't do. They don't hear that with us. Not one day are they told, even when they make a mistake, that they cannot be a champion the next day. You're going to make a mistake. You was late to 2 classes. I bet you won't be late to 2 tomorrow. Because if not, I'm going to walk you through the class. They don't want that action. So they tend to do what we need them to do because we're relentless. When you're getting calls on Sunday and it's 8 o'clock and you want to lay around all day and we trying to get you to make choices, they know we really, really genuinely care about them because we're getting away from our own family. They hear my own kids in the background. So that means a lot to them, and we don't really see the behavior with the kids in the group. They might get tired or act like they don't want to hear from us, but they don't tend to repeat those behaviors.
Wonderful. So I do have a question. Are you getting any feedback from the classroom teachers regarding improved behavior or improved outcomes in the classroom?
Yeah, that is where we at in our phase of with our teachers. So one of the things that I would say many of the teachers that I talk to talk about the kid is not mean at this point. Usually the kid was mean before, didn't want to hear it and really acting tough. But now the scholar is starting to build agency. So we're at the point when he talked about where we're going is now this kid needs a role in the classroom. What am I in this class? Can I be your door person? Can I greet people at the door? So I think that's where we're at with our teacher conversation. Hey, this kid is now open. They want to try again. And sometimes, that relationship was burned up a little bit there. That kid probably wasn't saying the right thing to the teacher on a daily basis, burning our teacher out. And so now you got to show that teacher, this is a new him. This is a new her. Let's try again. So that scholar knows those 8 days, he has to show the teacher, I'm able to sit down, I'm able to listen, I'm able to try again. And now we're at the part we're telling the teacher, hey, look, since he's doing this, give him a role, give him a responsibility, because he or she is a lot of time is showing up. They're not always intrinsically motivated by just coming to school. They're intrinsically motivated by what you say to them when they get to school. And so that's important that we're bridging that partnership with our teachers to give these scholars roles in that classroom.
So I do want to just say thank you for all the work that you guys are doing. I know some of this is just kind of volunteer. You do this after hours on your own time without being paid for it. So we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Ms. Stanford.
Thank you. So you mentioned the 40 days and the 60 to 80 scholars. So after 40 days, do you start then with a new 60 to 80 scholars?
So yeah, we in 40 days are usually done with the whole cohort. So we'll be done with this 40 in February. We'll take a break, look at data, make sure the kids are okay, check in, and we'll start the next one, specifically focusing with Jen Lawrence's new cohort at middle school and 4th and 5th grade, because we want to get them earlier. Because that high school student needs to know you before they get to high school. So we're going to be really intentional with that next cohort, and they're going to likely graduate in May. So we kind of do a little ceremony, let them know you crossed the line, you survived with us, and they got our numbers. And Jason Bethel is on our team. He's looking at doing a basketball lead and doing an incentive for the scholars that complete the program, because that's another touch point of, men they could be around, playing ball and doing various things. So whatever it takes a lot of time, but that time is important that they know we didn't just end this program, you're still with us. And the goal, June, is definitely, Ms. Stanford, to get them to come back and some of the ones that really shine to teach some of the next ones in the next cohort. So we're going to pull about 4 of them. Hopefully you'll see them next week for attendance the next time we come. And those are going to lead some of the next group to say, hey, look, when I face this challenge and when I want to do this, this is what you need to do. And then we're also going to try to do that with parents, build a cohort of parents to have the conversation with the next group for us.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that it's way more than 60 to 80 kids that you're touching their lives every year. It's every 40 days you got a new group. So, and like everyone else said, if there's anything we can do, if there's any event you want me at that you think it would help, anything, I'm here. I'm here to do whatever you need me to do.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next, we have board reflections. Do any board members have anything to share regarding any events you've attended or any interactions you've had in the community? Ms. Pearson.
Yes, I am no stranger in the community, needless to say. But I did have an opportunity to attend the play at West on What Goes Wrong. And made you think a little bit, and you had to put the pieces together. But they did a phenomenal job. And so kudos to those that's in the CAPA program and participated in the play. Thank you.
Ms. Bennett.
I and a few other board members as well attended the open house at the Quad, which was lovely. So That was a very nice event to get to see the quad. I had a student that gave me a tour, and she gave real life examples of things that are going well, some things not going so well. So I appreciate her being very honest and willing to show a tour. Restaurant, a person who used to run a restaurant in town, goodness, is now a teacher there. So he was so excited to show off his multiple kitchens and just kind of talk about what students were learning and whatnot. So I encourage anybody who's able to take a visit to the quad and just see all of the real life experiences. I want to go there. I wish my high school was as cool as something like that. So it was a really great event.
So I want to say that I attended the open house for the quad, and it's amazing. It surpassed anything that I imagined that space could be. The teachers were very excited. I had a very involved talk with Mr. Brock Williams over at maybe Meg Williams in the graphic arts department, and what they're doing there is pretty amazing. I saw the dental space, the nursing space, the culinary space. It's just all, it's great. So anybody who's has a chance to get over there and check out the quad, do so. Anyone else? Mr. Carpenter.
Thanks. I was also at the quad, and it was great. Echo everything you both said about that. Also, I did go to the Rumble in the Rock and saw the Hall of Fame induction, which was great. It was really neat to see those folks get inducted into that, and also saw some really great basketball games, which I think is pretty great for the high school students to get to play on a college floor. Is exciting. So those are some of the things I did. Thank you.
Me.
Oh, Ms. Stanford.
So I was also at the quad open house, and it was amazing. Some really neat things going on there. The teachers love it. The principal is wound up about the quad. He is so excited about it, the quad doctor. So please go see him if you can. Another thing is the Reba Elementary School basketball program that's going on right now. The games are on Saturdays at the Sports Factory and weeknights at schools, and that's another great program that I'm proud to go and watch and participate. That's it.
Ms. Haley, I'm sorry, I forgot one.
Ms. Pearson.
Which was really the highlight, one of the highlights. I was able to attend School Choice Week for Jackson Charter School. It was absolutely phenomenal. I missed a good portion because, of course, I was at Jackson when I should have been at the Standard. But nonetheless, it was absolutely wonderful. I certainly appreciate the work and the effort that they're putting into at Jackson Charter School. Thanks.
Wonderful. So if that is all, that concludes our Stakeholders Committee.
Can I make one comment?
Absolutely.
I just saw that the Eisenhower, I think 8th grade boys basketball team advanced to state tournament this weekend, which is exciting. That's awesome. And good luck to them this weekend. 2 years in a row. Thank you. Great. And also another sporting event this weekend involves a former Rockford athlete. What is that event? Oh,
The
right.
Super
The Super
Bowl.
Bowl.
You're
Okay,
taking my
yes.
thunder.
Oh, thank you.
You
Go ahead,
already
Ms. McCall.
spoke. No.
Ms. McCall.
No, Paul said it already. Yeah, so there's going to be at the Super Bowl, a former Rockford high school player. I'm not sure which team, for the Patriots. So we're going to be represented there on the big stage, and so I look forward to seeing that. And yeah, I missed a couple of events, but I'll be back next time.
So now that concludes our Stakeholders Committee presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be moving on to item 4, the Performance and Monitoring Committee, which will be led by Ms. Bennett.
Hello, good evening. First, tonight we have our charter school presentations given to us by Dr. Gallagher to begin.
Okay, good evening and thank you. Just a little where we were, where we are, where we're going, similar to what you heard with bags. What we're bringing before board in the month of February is our 4th charter reauthorization since our charter's inception in 2009. All three of our charters are coming before a board for reauthorization at the same time because in the last third cycle, it was determined that all charter schools would have a 3-year term. So all charter schools' 3-year terms are expiring this year. And the crux of what we're bringing before board, presenting tonight, myself with an overview, an opportunity for our charters to also present their school improvement work. But ultimately on February 17th, you'll be voting on the recommendation for what the charter term's next authorization length should be. This first slide that we have before you is just a benchmarking slide so that you can see how our charter schools, RPS, and Illinois are performing across important metrics. So ELA and math, proficiency, again, proficiency is being at grade level or being ready for college success. You have ELA, math, and growth percentiles. That's how quickly or slowly are students learning relative to their peers across the state. And then chronic absenteeism presented as well, the percentage of students that are chronically absent, which is 17 or more days each school year. In the last two columns, you'll see there the recommendation for the term length of reauthorization for our charter schools, Legacy being 3 years, and Jackson and Galapagos being 2-year length terms for reauthorization. And what you also see there is relative to not just our district accountability, which we'll get into with our charters, but also their ISB accountability. So you can see the designations for each of our charters, with Legacy being commendable, Jackson being comprehensive, and Galapagos being targeted. Because Jackson and Galapagos have the designations of being comprehensive and targeted respectively, that means that they must be in 4-year school improvement cycles with the state. They're currently each in year 2 of 4. And so if we are going with 2-year terms for their reauthorization, that actually nicely lines up with the remainder of their school improvement cycles wrapping up with the state for that additional 2 years. If you remember, in July, the board approved a contract with Schoolworks. This was a contract for Schoolworks to come out into our charters and do 2 to 3 day visits where they facilitated meeting with all stakeholder groups. So meeting with charter boards, meeting with student panels, meeting with all leadership and support staff, and visiting all classrooms and meeting with all teachers. At the end of that visit, you can see up top how the rating domains are labeled, and then you can see the 4 categories at the bottom that get scored in those renewal site visits that took place across October and November, with their scores outlined there. Additionally, we'll have a slide for each of our charters that just shows year over year, not just last year, how they performed. And again, that is benchmarked relative to how the district has performed and how the state has performed. So that if I were to use here Legacy on the left-hand side for reading, looking at 2023, in the dark blue, that is showing Legacy's percentage of students that are on track for college success. The middle blue bar would be the district performance, and the light blue bar in 2023 would be the state performance. And we have that for each of our 3 charter schools. And then last that I'll share in terms of an overview before I turn it over to our charter leadership, here's the performance rubric with how each of the rating areas are labeled. This rubric takes into account many of the student achievement metrics I just shared with you, along with some culture and climate metrics, the scores from the renewal site visits that were facilitated by Schoolworks, as well as metrics related to board governance and finances. And so on the right-hand side, you can see what the ultimate performance score was for Legacy, for Jackson, and for Galapagos. And for each of our 3 charters, our recommendation is to go with the max term length within each of the ratings that they received. So for Galapagos and Jackson, the recommendation being 2 years in length because of where they fell, and for Legacy, the recommendation being 3 years in length because of their ultimate performance rubric score. And again, this is the same performance rubric that we used in the last 3 cycles of reauthorization for our charter schools. So with that said, I am first going to turn it over to Legacy Charter School. Welcome, Dr. Forte.
I do not know how to operate any of this.
I can do it for you.
Oh, okay, great. Good evening. I am Dr. Barbara Forte from Legacy Academy of Excellence Charter School, and I am here this evening with my Assistant Executive Director, Mrs. Lynn Victorov, and our Finance and Facility Operations person, Mr. Christopher Jenkins. Thank you for this opportunity to share some information about our school and the strides we are making towards becoming an exemplary school. So what I'd like to do, because we only have 5 minutes, I'd like to skip the first 3 of the slides. And we'll start with the working hard with work worth doing. That's our motto and our creed. We work by that. And we have earned a summative designation since 2018 of commendable. We became the first international baccalaureate NYP middle year school program in Rockford in 2015. We incorporate our character virtues, our habits of mind, and the IB learner profile into all of our daily instruction. And Legacy draws its students' population primarily from the 4 zip codes with the lowest median income. Next slide, please. In terms of our growth, and if I don't know if it's possible, but I left out just one slide. Could I pass that slide out to you guys? It's about our proficiency growth. Thank you. But in terms of looking at Legacy's growth, in ELA, we went from 48% growth to 48% to 41%, and then last year 58%, which was a total percentage of 10% growth. In math, 49% to 56%. And so in terms of meeting the standard that the state set for growth, we did meet and exceed that a bit beyond the 50%. With the slide that is being handed out to you, I wanted to indicate Legacy's proficiency. And with that, I need that sheet myself. For proficiency from, and let me begin by saying also that the standard or the benchmark that was set by the district is that we show a 5% increase in proficiency in both ELA and math. So with Legacy, we showed 19% increase in proficiency in ELA and 13% growth in proficiency in our math. You go to that next slide. I'm trying to get through this as quickly as I can. Okay, and what we also are particularly proud of is the fact that with our designated groups, with our students with IEPs, they showed 53% growth in ELA and 51% growth in math. And for our English language learners, there was 67% growth in ELA and 70% growth in their math. And I think this contributes to our ability to maintain that commendable designation over the past several years. Next slide. We have a lot of community connections. I'm going to try to read them all because I only have 52 seconds left. But we do try to, in keeping with our IB designation also, we try to maintain a solid communication, and we do lots of programs with our community outreach. And then finally, in that last one, our goals. That last slide. Well, we endeavor to continue to work towards increasing our proficiency in math and as well as in language arts to exemplary. We endeavor to further expand and enhance the integration of our character virtues, our IB learner profile, our habits of mind and guiding principles. We endeavor to further expand and enhance our IB program. We're endeavoring to increase our enrollment not to exceed 300 students. We're endeavoring to increase student attendance. We're endeavoring to increase our community outreach. And we're endeavoring to increase our summer school and after school participation. Oh, and then do questions, okay.
Okay, and if we could have Jackson next with Principal Dr. Wren.
Dr. Morgan, we're going to do questions after each.
After all of
those,
yep. Do you want the clicker or me?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. For those of you all who don't know who I am, I'm Dr. Ebony Wren, and I serve as the Principal and Executive Director at Jackson Charter School. I first want to say thank you to RPS, and I genuinely mean that. You all have been a partner to me since coming to Jackson 17 months ago, so thank you, along with SchoolWorks for a transparent and collaborative renewal process. Next slide. This represents who we serve at Jackson. I will say that our students, our diverse learners, kind of is what landed us in our summative designation that we're navigating now. And we've been very intentional about what does that support look like for them, and really disaggregating data to really meet the needs of our diverse learners. I'll also say that we consistently serve students across the Rockford area, just like all RPS schools, who face high mobility, chronic absenteeism, and concentrated poverty as well. The demographics make stability and system support a non-negotiable for our sustainable academic, behavior, and social emotional growth. Next slide. We have had challenges, and I'll get into that in the next slide, but we understand the need to stabilize leadership, instructional, and operational teams. And I would say last year being a turnaround year, this year has really been centered on stabilization of our teams and our instruction and what that looks like, and making some radical decisions and radical change to meet the needs of our students and our staff. Although our proficiency is not where we want it to be, what I can say is that our students are growing. We are seeing growth. Next slide. As I mentioned previously, we're seeing some successes and we're seeing some challenges. Last year, AIR rated our school as established, which kind of gave us a benchmark for growth and where we needed to go and the direction that we needed to go. We do look at, our neighboring schools. Again, we serve as a partner to our local district and seeing how we can fill the gaps for some of our students who just need a different environment. Other challenges relate to our proficiency, which I stated before, along with reaching this commendable designation that we are aggressively and actively striving for. Next slide. You'll see here over and over, I've requested a 5-year renewal. And again, I was taught closed mouths don't get fed, so I know that the recommendation is 2, but we need time to make change. Sometimes a shorter renewal risks destabilizing the progress of our students and our families, and we're moving from instability to intentionality, and I think that that speaks volumes, and you can come in Jackson and I can tell you all about that if you'd like. We're not making excuses. We're acknowledging and accepting our challenges, but one thing that I can say is that we're doing something about every single one of the challenges that we've been faced. Next slide. Oh, that was it. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Wren. And we do have Galapagos, thank you, as our last charter presentation. You want me to click as well?
Good evening. My name is Saprila Ellis, and I'm the Dean of Instruction at Galapagos Charter School, specifically the lower academy serving our K through 4 scholars. So this slide, as, sorry, what was your name? I want to address you properly. She said, this slide just tells us about who we serve, so I want to ground us in that work. Right now, our enrollment is 365. Approximately 80% of our scholars come from low-income households, 21% receive special education services, 12% are English language learners, and 13% experience mobility during the school year. Our average daily attendance sits at about 91%, with about 3% of our scholars identifying or experiencing homelessness. I share this context as a lens, so it helps explain why our systems, why our consistency, and why access are central to the improvement work that we're doing at Galapagos. That looks like a lot, but similar to the previous structures, what are we doing? We're anchored in 3 core strategies. So first and foremost, we're committed to implementing a school-wide MTSS system that allows us to proactively monitor and respond to our scholar needs across all areas, so academics, behavior, and attendance. It ensures earlier intervention, clearer data cycles, and more consistent support across all classrooms across each building. Second, we're attempting to strengthen our family and community engagement structures, and I'll go ahead and add, which is a change we moved to leverage experiential learning for engagement and access. So that includes clear communication, more intentional touch points, and leveraging a new model that we're kind of adapting and piloting right now to create authentic school community partnerships and increase scholar engagement. And to support in that work, we are also continuing to differentiate our coaching support and our professional development for instructors and aides. I think I saw in one of the previous slides, our staff opportunity to learn did receive a 3 rating, and we think that that's important. That also includes our aides and fidelity. Successes in that. So as a result of this work, we are seeing quite a few successes. We've experienced sustained growth in reading with increased proficiency over recent years from 19% to 32%, and growth outcomes. Instructionally, we are seeing greater coherence across classrooms as our systems mature, particularly, how much time I got? I wouldn't. 2 minutes. Oh, I'm good. I wasn't checking. I'm sorry. Particularly in our lesson structure, our scholar engagement, and our instructional routines. And as I said before, our experiential learning model continues to be a bright spot where we are seeing increasing levels of scholar engagement and strong community-connected learning, which has positively impacted our attendance and our academic persistence. And finally, we maintain stable enrollment with strong community demand, reinforcing that scholars and their families value our mission and our instructional approach. And at the same time, we are also clear-eyed about our challenges. So one of our primary focus areas is our math proficiency while maintaining growth. So while scholars are making progress, while they are showing growth, accelerating proficiency remains a challenge that we are tackling and a priority. We're also working to mitigate the impact of attendance and mobility on instructional continuity. So student movements create challenges, especially with the curriculums we use for our pacing, for our intervention consistency, our classroom culture, and just that verticality, which is why our MTSS work is so critical. And lastly, we're focused on ensuring consistent implementation of interventions across classrooms. So the systems exist, but consistency and fidelity are the next frontier. And that's why our leadership and our coaching and our development systems are currently prioritized as well. As closing thoughts, Galapagos, we have a clear understanding of our performance, of our current standing. We also have a strong instructional vision and a target improvement plan grounded in both equity and accountability. Our data shows growth, our systems show responsiveness and intentionality, and our outcomes demonstrate that we're well positioned to continue serving scholars effectively during the next charter term and beyond. And our mission remains clear: to prepare scholars to thrive in a changing and complex world. Thank you.
We wanted to try and keep the presentations brief from each of the charters so that we could maximize opportunity for any questions that the board may have, recognizing that in our performance and monitoring portion this evening within the 60 minutes, our next presentation is going to be the Student Code of Conduct, which could also have some robust dialogue attached to it. So are there any questions that we may have for our charter leadership representatives or myself?
Up to legacy, congratulations on your consistent, commendable status. You all are doing a phenomenal job, and that should not go unrecognized. So thank you for your commitment and the work that you're doing. I know that education is a challenge that students, I heard a superintendent say at a tri-conference one year, that students aren't problems, they show up with problems. And to come up with a strategy to work through that is worth the while. And so keep up the good work. It is very much appreciated and that does not go unnoticed. I do have a question for Jackson, Dr. Wren. You are advocating for 5 years versus 2. What can we expect of what? So there's no guarantees, but what do you think will look different in 5 years versus 2?
Thank you for asking. I'm so glad I left 5 in my presentation. So I think a couple of things. When I look at research, whether it be a public school or a private school or a charter school, you need time to make that change. One of the things that we've really been, like I said, stabilizing is our team. And so just realistically, I think if I'm recruiting and retaining staff members and they know that we're invested in developing them and even our parents and whatnot, it gives us more flexibility and autonomy to really meet the needs and develop our staff, so then in turn we can meet our students' needs, as opposed to 2 years where we're getting ready for renewal all over again, which is extremely, it could be a stressful process for staff and students.
Thank you. I noticed that you talked a little bit about staff turnover, and can you talk a little more about efforts that have been put forth to try to stabilize that?
Yep. So one of the first things that I can speak to is that we've hired a back office HR support, which has been a huge support with recruitment for us as well. So clearly standardized practices as far as posting positions and recruitment, but I have really found success in working with hiring agencies to recruit and retain highly qualified staffing. Of course, it costs a little bit more, but we know that we have a need to have highly qualified, culturally responsive staff to meet the needs of our students and a demographic of students that we serve.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
I have a question for.
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know who was first. Sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Haley.
You mentioned AIR in your presentation. I'm not familiar with that term. What is that?
American Institute of Research. So they came as a part of our designation, and they do a very comprehensive review of the school, and they kind of help you establish and work towards your school improvement plan. And so they rated us as established, which is good. It was a good benchmark, like I said, that kind of helped us led the way for us developing our school improvement plan.
Okay, thank you. Also, second part of my question here, I have do you guys utilize a system similar to the MTSS system?
We do. Yes. One of our colleagues is here today. She's going to speak about that more in public comment. But we launched a school-wide MTSS system this year. We also use Panorama, which is good while we're working with our RPS partners, because we're able to interchangeably talk through that system and platform as well, so that if we inherit an RPS student, we know the interventions that they're receiving, and we can say, hey, we know that this is what you were doing at Lewis Lemon, and so we're going to piggyback off of this and support you here at Jackson.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you. I wanted to ask Dr. Forte a question. I might have a question for you too, Dr. Wren, but well, I saw Dr. Forte raising her hand when we were talking about I don't know if it was about the 5-year term or not, but I was going to ask about Legacy's recommendation for 3 years, even though they've been commendable for several years. And so I wanted to ask Dr. Gallagher if he could explain that a little bit, and then maybe I think Dr. Forte might want to weigh in on that.
Sure. I'm just going to work backwards here. So, again, this is the performance rubric that is utilized for what the recommended term length should be for charter reauthorization. This is the performance rubric that we've used every time that we have had each of our charters go up for reauthorization. So in this fourth go around, we wanted to stick to utilizing this rubric so that we're looking at each term apples to apples for what our recommendations are for the charters. Here with legacy score being at 2.0, you can see a score of 2.0 falls into that orange band. And so the recommendation in the performance rubric in the orange band is to go up to but not exceed 3 years with no expansion of the charter school onto other campuses. So it really just stems from that. Again, this performance rubric is based off of student achievement metrics. It is based off of culture and climate and enrollment metrics, and also board governance and financial metrics.
Okay, and I see the largest one is on quality instruction for 75%, it looks like. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that's student achievement?
It's the proficiency in ELA and math and the student growth in ELA and math, primarily.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then I guess I wanted to ask Dr. Forte if she had any thoughts about that. It looked like you wanted to weigh in on the 5-year.
If I could just kind of piggyback on what Dr. Wren was saying, in working with our students and accommodating the many needs that they have and the varying needs that they have, it does take a significant amount of time to get to that point. We've been at Legacy for a while, and it does take time to work with the students, to develop that staff, and to be able to get to a point where you see the consistent growth. And so I agree in that, 5 years gives us much more time to be able to do that, to be able to actually delve into and focus exclusively on those strategies and tactics that support students, as well as those tactics and methods that support our parents and our families as well. And it does take time. Now, regarding that metric, and since it's put on the table, we did have a concern about the score that we received, given that with the kind of growth that we achieved, that had to be achieved through effective instruction. And so we feel like our score was not as high as it really could have been or should have been, because you don't get the kind of growth that we got and instruction is not effective. It's effective, and I mean, we did want to refute that, and we weren't given an opportunity to speak with the district about it, but the work is hard. You have to be diligent. You have to be consistent. And it's time consuming. I mean, it's work worth doing, but it does take a bit of time to be able to achieve that. And it's worth that time and that effort and that energy that we put into it when you start to see the growth that you want to see in your students as well as in your staff.
Thank you.
Dr. Gallagher, I have a quick question for you. Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't see your light. Sorry. It's a horseshoe. It's hard. Can you discuss a little bit about any communication that each of the charters maybe have with each other? Like, are there any groups where they all get to meet, or any communication that the three of them have? Maybe they don't have, and that's okay too, but is that something that happens? Does anybody have an answer about that?
Beyond the work that we've done for preparing this presentation for the charters, there's not really been like a concerted group effort that is at least led by the district. You know, part of I understand too, I guess I would want to give context for why there's a heightened level of accountability for charters versus maybe what we have with the district, or a different level of accountability that comes from the district and not just the state. And the idea is that there's a balance that with greater autonomy and greater opportunity for innovation, you therein have greater accountability, and that accountability is tied to what the length of the term is for the schools. Now, what's tricky about this particular circumstance is that actually what I would consider a blessing is that the district accountability timeline is actually aligning with the state accountability timeline. So when we have schools that are in a targeted or a comprehensive designation, if they're to remain in comprehensive, as an example, after 2 years when their 4-year cycle of school improvement is up with ISB, we actually don't know yet from the state what the state is going to do as an accountability measure for these schools, whether it would be reconstituting the curriculum, having a staff turnover. There's multiple different things that the state could do. So it really makes sense for us not knowing what that change could be from the state if we have schools that remain in designation to not go beyond that 2 years for those schools in designation.
So, yes, Ms. Goldsmith.
I just would like to supplement Dr. Gallagher's answer in that he has taken over this role this year, but the legal department has been involved for several years with the work with charter schools. And I will say that in past years with Dr. Wolf, he created opportunities, I believe it was quarterly, for all of the charter schools to meet here at the administration building to have questions answered, whether they were about financial processes or other questions that they may have had. So there was a more collaborative supporting effort and opportunity, but with the very recent retirement of Dr. Wolf, the transition has been a little bit of a reset in growth process for Dr. Gallagher in deciding how he wanted to move forward.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. In looking at like the stats, for example, there are multiple things like student attendance that's going really, really well for all three of you. And then some of the other areas where there's some challenges, or you've identified them, or just even in your data, there's some challenges that are consistent across all three schools. So my mindset was our elementary schools, middle schools, high schools all have time where they get to be together, schools that are close by, schools that have same need. So my thought was just more problem solving of things that are going well. Don't even worry about those for now. Monitor, of course, along the way. But if you had joint time together that you guys would be able to kind of use each other as resource, RPS always, of course, but that's just my 2 cents. So thank you. Ms. Pearson?
Sure, thank you. Dr. Gallagher, you mentioned other contributing factors that fed into the percentages. Is there more comprehensive data as the why behind the scoring?
Yeah, actually, if you look Exhibit B, it says kind of in the fine print at the bottom of this slide, if you look at Exhibit B, which is attached and which goes along with each of the reauthorization agreements, that drills down into all the metrics that comprise this final recommendation score.
Yeah, well, I was looking for that, and so for a legacy, for example, they've been commendable now for 3 years?
Since 2018.
So since 2018.
Ever since the district, or since the state did designations, we've always been commended.
So for since 2018 to now, a significant span of time where they have proved consistency with commendable status. And I understand, I see Exhibit B, and I'll have more questions about that later. But when, but just for the sake of saying, when you have put forth that much effort and have been consistent for that length of time, it just seemed like there would be a leniency or considerations for an expansion of renewal. And I'll save my additional questions for my one-on-one with Dr. Jarrett on tomorrow. I just wanted to make that statement.
Sure. I would just, again, when you look at the accountability system that we have through this performance rubric,
yeah, that's
relative to what ISB's designation rubric looks like, a commendable status means that they're not in the bottom 5%, and they're not in the top 10%. They're in that large swath in the middle with the commendable status. And so, yeah, we do want to see our charters get to a point where they go well beyond just not being in the bottom 5%.
On average, how, when we look at our schools that is in the very bottom, how many years have they been designated and that it's like not performing? So, for example, if our schools have been, say, 3 to 5 years not performing, and we have gone through the steps of the state coming in and putting things in place. And I'm gonna save my questions for Dr. Jarrett, because I don't want, we have a long agenda, other presentations. I just want to understand the rubric. I see the exhibit B, all of that. I am supportive of, I can empathize rather with the concern of the time needed. When I look at, for an example, curriculum that we spent years on because we wanted to give it a chance, it caused me to be empathetic to the need of more time. That's all.
Okay. Whether before or after a one-on-one with Dr. Jarrett, if you have any questions specific to performance over the years, if you want to email me, I'd be happy to share that back with the board.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. McCall?
I just want you to, can you run back to slide 2? Okay. So this just here shows how the charter schools, each one, goes against the state and the district scores, right? So it's already showing this right here. Okay, so I just wanted to have that slide put up again and reiterate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any additional questions for Dr. Gallagher or any of the charter schools? No. Thank you, everybody, for coming and presenting. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks to each of you.
Okay, next we have Ms. Lawrence and Mr. Graffey for our student code of conduct presentation and updates.
Yeah, on a much lighter note, the student code of conduct, right? So here we are again. I'm going to go over the annual review process, and Mr. Graffey will go into a deeper dive into the proposed revisions for the code of conduct for the next school year. So as you know, we have a standard process that we review and revise the student code of conduct every year. This year we did a few things different, what I'll get to in a few slides, but we listened to a variety of stakeholder feedback. We internalize that information, we look into our code, we look into our data, and we see what changes need to be made. Student code of conduct is really just a guidance of expected student behavior. It's not meant to outline every misbehavior that you might see in a school building. We've stayed with the same components since the revision. We have 5. They're in different colors in the code of conduct. In each of those 5, we have 4 levels of offenses. Level 1 is the least egregious, going all the way up to level 4, which is the most egregious. And within each one of those levels, we have suggested interventions and a range of corrective strategies. What the student code of conduct is not is a zero tolerance policy. There's one student misbehavior that is expulsion only, and that is firearms. So that is a zero tolerance that is set by the state of Illinois and the Illinois School Code. Outside of that, we provide guidance and training to our administrators on how to process student discipline, which means that they must consider a variety of factors when they determine a consequence for a student. And you can see what those are listed there. So our student code of conduct either escalates, meaning it starts at a very low level and the consequences get bigger, or it can start at the highest level of the code of conduct, as the example I gave you before with firearms. This is just an example of the training that we provide to school administrators on how to determine what type of corrective strategy and intervention they may apply for a student misbehavior. This year, we did something a little different. We invited ourselves to the schools and their building committees, and we purposefully set those up to talk about the student code of conduct specific to their building, to hear straight from the staff what are the barriers that you're seeing within the code of conduct, what are things that are going okay, what are things that are going great. And we got a lot of feedback from that. We also have a student code of conduct parent-teacher advisory that we conduct on a regular basis. We did 2 community listening sessions. Thank you for Board President Carpenter for attending one of those. And then this year we sent 3 surveys out, and we got the most feedback out of all of that from those surveys. So that was really interesting. We'll definitely keep doing that. Definitely keep doing the building committee. That was a really good opportunity for staff to just have an in-person conversation with this enigma of student code of conduct. And what did we hear? We heard the same things as we've heard, primarily. Drugs and vaping is still a problem, although better with the HALO device, the HALO detection system. So there is an improvement with that, still a problem that we need to address. Physically aggressive behaviors are the #1 category that we see in the student code of conduct for misbehavior. Cell phones, we heard that there was a inconsistent implementation across the district and within the building. So that's a huge opportunity for improvement for schools. And then we also learned that we just need more alternative education seats and stop waiting for the code of conduct to grab kids up. I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Graffey for the proposed revisions.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak about the proposed changes that we have for the Code of Conduct for the 26-27 school year. On the slide in front of you here is an overview of those proposed changes that we are bringing to you this evening. Here you will see that we have 6 proposed changes for language pertaining to the definitions within our 5 discipline matrices. We also have proposed changes for the language regarding our cell phone policy, and we will go into further detail on each of these on the upcoming slides. On this first slide here, we are focused on changes for the non-discipline matrices. Obviously, we have a new superintendent coming in for the 26-27 school year, so we will be updating that information. Our contract with Let's Talk is set to expire on June 30th of this year, so we wanted to make sure that we were providing families the information needed to follow up with schools or the district should they have concerns that they need to address. And then lastly on here, you'll see that we reformatted the form for our bullying policy. None of the content changed. We just made it fit onto one page for ease of access for our families. For our proposed change in the bullying matrix, you'll see here that we are proposing language for the unlawful recording level 4 definition. In this case here, we are proposing language to allow for us to use this code when students are finding images of non-student or staff members, but are representing those images to be of those students or staff members. So again, what we have seen occasionally is that students will be going online and finding these inappropriate images and then sharing them around the school as if they are images of a student or staff member. And so we wanted to make sure that we were covered with that code of conduct definition. In our disobedience matrix, we are proposing language to add not only title changes, but language within the definition to include audio or video recording of school staff. While this has not been a issue that has been brought to our attention in bulk this year, with the changes to AI and those types of things, we wanted to be proactive with the language changes to our code of conduct. And so we wanted to include language that would allow us to address those types of behaviors adequately should they arise. You will see this applies in both a level 3 violation as well as a level 4 for repeated level 3 offenses. In our physical aggression matrix, based on the conversations that we've had with various stakeholder groups, we wanted to clarify and add language to include strangulation for when it occurs from student to student under our battery 4 violation, as well as student to staff under our staff battery violation. We also wanted to clarify language with a proposed change under our sexual assault level 4 violation to remove the word child. That way, any type of molestation, whether that is from student to student or staff to student, or sorry, student to staff, could be followed under the sexual assault level 4 violation. And then lastly, our cell phone policy. There's been some questions over the last couple of years of does RPS have a ban on cell phones? And the answer to that is yes, we do. So again, we want to clarify that cell phones are not permitted to be used in our schools during the school day. Our cell phone policy proposed changes will also indicate what the exceptions to those policies are, and you can read those on the screen in front of you. And then lastly, we are looking to consolidate the steps that are needed to take for violations of the cell phone policy. So while we currently have a 4-step process, we are looking to consolidate that down to 2. And then for students that have repeated violations, not only would they be subject to the code of conduct, but again, we could also look at potential needs for other MTSS interventions or ultimately an alternative learning environment should that student continue to violate that code. So with that in mind, that is the end of our presentation. I will open it up to any questions from the board.
Any questions from anyone? Okay, I have a few questions. Sure. I was gonna go last, like on purpose, so, no, okay. I just have few, very few this time. Okay, on page 11, oh wait, no. Oh. Okay, on page 11 for teen dating violence level 4, would the form that's at the back of the packet, report form for bullying and school violence, could that form also be used to disclose or report teen dating violence?
Yes.
Okay, so in the form, I guess if we go to the form, the different items are, it very specifically says bullying or school violence, all of the different items. Also, for the things that could apply, there's no specific line item for teen dating violence or violence in an interpersonal relationship. However it would want to be worded, none of those things are in here.
We can add that.
Okay. Thank you, just so it makes it very clear for the student filling it out or family, whoever it is. Okay, thank you. And then on page 19, thank you for including strangulation. I very much appreciate that. Make sure our staff and students are safe. Is there already, or will there be regulations, procedure outlined specifically regarding medical care for staff, students, and where will that be, or where is it if it's already created?
Right now we have an administrative addendum that provides guidance, written guidance for school administration, but that will be updated to add both the victim and the aggressor in terms of when strangulation does occur, right? So we'd make sure that the victim sees medical attention beyond the scope of the school nurse, that conversation is had between our school nurse and the family, and or a staff member if that's what happens. And then also having additional resources for the aggressor.
Okay, so community resources,
Correct.
Resources in the school, both?
Correct.
Yes.
We would work
Okay.
with the family to provide those to them.
Okay, thank you. And for if, for example, I have 2 follow-up questions and then I'm done. If a student is to strangle another student, would a safety plan be put in place for both of them? So a safety plan to keep person who perpetrated in addition to survivor of strangulation, both safety plans in place?
It could be, if the need is for both of them, yes.
Okay.
However, we definitely, in the past, what we had before was just one safety plan for the victim, right? And then when you talk about things like teen dating violence, where sometimes it's a mutual, things may go back and forth, we recognize the need to have a safety plan for both students. So it just depends on the situation. Of course, it would be something that the administrator would be asked to look into to ensure that it was done if it was necessary, yes.
Okay. And if a staff member was to be strangled, how would that situation be handled in relation to a student being in that teacher's classroom or staff members, around that staff member?
Sure, that would be a recommendation for a pretty serious discipline. And what we've done in the past to remove a dangerous student or situation is either safety transfer them to another zone school or safety transfer them to an alt-ed placement.
Okay, but that would be something, obviously case by case, we wouldn't have a blanket approach, but there would be something that staff person could advocate for.
Administration would be advocating for it, and so would my office and
Okay.
Mr. Graffey, yes.
Okay. I think those are all my questions. Yep, thank you. Ms. Pearson?
Yes, I just have a quick question. How are we coming along with clips, video clips, where it relates to?
We plan on doing that. We're kind of inundated right now with some other things, but definitely over the summer we plan to have that in place to start the next school year. And what you're referring to is to have kind of some parent-facing information about student discipline.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
There's a plan already.
And my next, and I made this suggestion, and I guess we just need to connect to utilize our Facebook with just clips and tips in regards to behavior to help understand why an expulsion may be necessary. And a public speaker mentioned, I don't know if she mentioned it the last time she spoke, but she shared it with me. And just for the sake of public knowledge, is there any other word or phrase that can be used in place of expulsion in advance?
So in the past, before my tenure back in the district, it was called a conditional probation agreement. And we did move away from that because the legal reference is expulsion in abeyance. So we are implementing behavior contracts. It's something we're kind of piloting slowly this school year. There's a lot of work that we're trying to do to be more proactive instead of letting behaviors escalate, because most of our behaviors in our code of conduct go 1, 2, 3, 4. And so when we see a student in level 2, you heard Dr. Reed speak to some of these things. We've been coordinating with his team and making some concerted efforts to grab kids and get them into support situations prior to seeing that third offense, which is level 3, and then unfortunate level 4. And so we're working really hard on that. I'm excited to hear you're asking about some of these things because, working with Dr. Reed's team and Amy Gannon and the MTSS team, we can come up with some really creative and intentional kind of like info bites for parents to assist them with student discipline and or their behavior at home. We often see the parents when I work with a lot of the parents at SOAR Academy, and they're asking for information. What do I do at home? How do I get them to do this at home? And so that collaborative piece is really important.
Thank you. So because expulsion in advance is a legal term, we have to use that term? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm going to refer to our Attorney Goldsmith. I don't think we need to. It's what we moved to.
So that change preceded me, but I think the importance of using the phrase expulsion in advance is for the participants in the agreement to understand that at all times, this is simply holding an expulsion in abeyance. If we call it a last chance agreement, I guess the concern would be that the family or student may lose sight that if they violate this agreement, they will be expelled or could be expelled. So I think internally, they like to maintain the consistency of the use of the term, but you could also, refer to it as an EIA, expulsion in abeyance, or last chance agreement, right? You could use that phrasing. But I think the intention is not to lose the fact that at all times the expulsion is on the table.
Thank you for that, Attorney Goldsmith. So the concern goes back to the subliteracy piece, right? So our community just hear the word expulsion, and many don't know what abeyance means. So that is my whole point of simplifying that to a fifth grade understanding. And so if we could, we may have to table this, but at some point, if we could give some attention to how that can be rephrased, would be appreciated.
Yeah, we have a script that we provide to our administrators to ensure that they go through each part of that. We can ensure that that phrase is in there and they explain what that means at several points within the EIA agreement.
Yeah, and I understand that. Do keep in mind that a lot of times when an EIA is presented, emotions are really high, and you only hear certain words, if your emotions are already at a 10. So I get that, and I completely understand, but I think I've had many conversations, especially if there's multiple students involved, and one parent only explained to the next parent what they understood, which really didn't help because now they're at a emotional high, and it just kind of went on. So that's the whole.
Yeah, I've got some ideas for that. We can do some follow-up phone calls.
Okay.
I mean, that's an easy reach from our schools back out to our parents.
Perfect.
For sure. There's
Thank
no
you.
further questions. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mr. Carpenter?
Thanks. I just want to say thank you for your work on this. I know you both work hard on this for a long period of time, and I know you also put a lot of effort into getting feedback. You mentioned the building level feedback as well as the parent advisory sessions and the community sessions and the survey. And I want to thank everybody who did provide feedback for that also, because I know that you take it seriously, and that's how we get to the changes that we need. So thank you all.
Thank you.
I have one brief question. In one of the slides, you talked about what you heard from building level committee or various ways, surveys, was need for alternative learning options for students. Mm-hmm. Did you receive any feedback, positive, negative at all about SOAR? So people's feelings about our SOAR implementation and anything about it?
I'm thinking right now of a situation that is happening right now at SOAR, and I can tell you, I received a phone call from the zone school principal thanking us for the work that we're continuing to do with the student that is having pretty serious kind of crisis level behaviors. And so we don't hear that all the time because they're off to their next thing. It's busy being a principal. Mm-hmm. But it's nice to hear that feedback on the back end that, like, I heard what happened. Thank you for continuing to support that student. So we do hear it on the back end, and when students return, we hear, wow, that's, the student's different than when they left our building.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much.
I have one last question.
Oh, Ms. Pearson.
Thank you.
Yep.
The listening sessions that we had, did any, what was the average attendance for that?
3 people.
And so that is a problem. Mm-hmm. And that is also a contributing factor why, and we use multiple streams of information to make sure the community was aware of that, correct?
Correct. It was multiple months, like our communications team pushed it out multiple modes.
Well, thank you for the effort that you put into it and the time you put into it. As I navigate in the community, I will continue to advocate for community and parental involvement. Thank you.
We're always taking members for our parent-teacher advisory. I always pitch that. So it's in the Code of Conduct. It's on our district website. If anyone's interested in being part of that community, just reach out to us and we will add you to the list.
Isn't it on Facebook as well?
The advisor. So the
Maybe.
parent-teacher advisory information is not necessarily on Facebook. What I will say is it's on, I want to say, page 3 of the Student Code of Conduct, and our information to contact us is on the back cover. So if anybody's ever interested in becoming a part of that committee, please just get a hold of us. Thank you.
I'm sorry, one more thing. I said last, but one more thing.
It's on page 4 of the Code of Conduct.
Okay, so again, I can't really refer to the Student Code of Conduct for parents to really look at that. So if we just made an announcement on Facebook requesting or inviting, people are more apt to be on Facebook than to search a website. I'm just trying to find avenues. In addition, social media is really where the people are at. And if we could somehow just put an ask out there, and then we can even see it and share it or tag or just trying to help, yeah.
Absolutely, we'll do.
Ms. Chavez?
Yeah, so all these meetings are held at schools? At the school, right?
The building committee meetings were held at schools, and those were school staff. We have a building committee as part of the REA contract. It's a meeting that they, where building level issues are addressed and solved, problem solved, and so we asked to be a part of those. So those were held at the building. The community listening sessions we've traditionally held at Auburn and East. We get our most parents at East. And all of the parent advisories are here. We do plan to have some in person next year and some virtual. So kind of a mix of that for people's schedules.
Okay, this community meetings, what I'm thinking of is, I assume they were offered in different languages, or an interpreter was available, I assume?
Yes, at East we had, 4 different languages that were present.
I know with like certain cultures, especially with like Latino cultures, like, again, school can be a little bit scary or not a ground that they may feel comfortable with. Have you guys tried to do some outreach with like different, like with the churches or community centers? You know,
We've tried to do the bilingual advisory committee. We did that a couple of years ago. We attended there and answered questions for parents. And it was.
Have you done that again?
We didn't do that one again.
Okay. I mean, definitely take advantage of the resources that we do have. I mean, because I know those bilingual, those BPAC meetings can get pretty well attended, you know, if encouraged to. I mean, that's something definitely would suggest you guys do again to get other
and as
feedback.
we kind of look to maybe phase out what isn't working and phase back in what is working, that will be on the discussion table with our bilingual team.
Okay, and also a lot of families that do attend these, you know, churches or community centers, their students do attend the Rockford Public School District. I mean, maybe building that relationship with them or something for like an after. I mean, Paul can attend to that, where we've had a meeting after Mass and the room was packed, you know. I mean, if it's encouraged by their leaders, you know, they're more likely to attend. So that's just a suggestion.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Attorney Goldsmith.
Yes, I see Miss Stephanie Pearson at the back there, and maybe they aren't speaking because they aren't at a microphone, but the district did push out the listening sessions for the Code of Conduct via the live feed on the website, and that also shows up on Facebook. So to the extent that Facebook is going to invite them to the listening sessions, you could then invite them to be on the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee. So you could have it pushed out via the live feed onto Facebook.
And text messages also went out. So I received a text and an email as well. So, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Okay, moving on, item C, RPS and Rockford University Special Education Endorsement. Did anybody have any questions on letter C? Okay, not tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. For our preview of consent items, one moment. Okay, we have Let's see. So we have, sorry, one moment, please. Okay, I apologize. One item was moved and it's moved some of the letters. So letter H, teacher created materials, two-way language immersion at Barber. I'm going to continue on unless a light turns on, okay? Item I, Renaissance PD, Johnson Elementary. J, Safe and Civil Schools, explicit instruction training. Letter K, iReady Tier 1 math coaching. Letter L, fiscal year 2027 student fees. Letter M, CDWAWS essential managed services. Letter N, Link nutrition software contract renewal for nutrition services. Letter O is a bid for pupil transportation services, which will be available at the next meeting. Any questions about any consent items? Seeing none, that concludes our portion of the meeting. Thank you.
Can I ask about the letter O for a minute?
Yes.
Oh.
Mr. Phillips is here to answer any questions. Yes.
Thank you. Can you just explain what that will be?
Yeah, so this is a request for proposal for early childhood as well as special education transportation, along with regular ed routes built into this. So we are actually going to submit a update in the superintendent's update on Friday, and I'll be sending out an email to all the board members. Mr. Smilanich and I would like to extend an invitation. If there are any specific questions, we would be happy to meet individually or 2-on-2 in person or via Teams to kind of go over our rationale behind who we are recommending as through this process. So I will send that out in an email later this week, but really hoping that people take us up on that. It's a very important RFP for us as a school district.
All right, thank you. I'll look forward to that. All right, we're moving on to planning and development, item 6 on the agenda. Ms. McCall will be leading us through for that committee.
Thank you. Item A, FY27 budget discussion. I will now turn the floor over to Dr. Brown, our Chief Financial Officer, who will give us an update on the fiscal year 2027 budget. Dr. Brown.
Okay, here we go. Going to just review where we're at right now for FY26. We have, been working our way back towards what we originally budgeted with, a net fund deficit still in the $3.5 to $4 million range. That's what we planned on, and we're still tracking on that right now. Operation and maintenance and transportation still on track to break even. And the healthcare spend actually gets a little bit better this month. Again, we're actually tracking closer to the budget now. About 1.5 million greater than budget, but that gap is slowly closing, so that's good news. So on a consolidated basis, we're looking at probably a $5 to $5.5 million deficit for FY26, and again, that's an improving trend. So that's the good news. I do want to just kind of take a little step back on where we were at for the FY26 budget. When we started to work on the FY26 budget, back in the fall of 2024, we were facing a deficit that was very similar to the deficit that we're looking at right now for FY27. And we actually got lucky in the month of May, and then really in August when ISB actually did the recalculations of the evidence-based funding. We were originally scheduled to get, because we're a tier 1 district, which means we're in the lowest resource districts in the state, we were scheduled to get about $10 million in what they call tier funding. And so that gets added on to our base. The reason I say we got a little bit lucky was U46, which is the Elgin School District, and District 300, which is Carpentersville, along with a handful of other districts, actually went from tier 1 to tier 2. And so what that did was that freed up the money that was left in tier 1 to be distributed a little more heavily to the districts that remained in tier 1. And so what happened with us was we got about $9.5 million extra in evidence-based funding that basically helped us close that $13.5 million deficit, plus or minus, that we were planning to have going into the FY26 fiscal year. That closed us down to the $3.5 to $4 million that you see right there. So just a reminder of kind of where we were at last year and really got lucky. Now, what we think is going to happen is we think that U46 and District 300 are probably going to go back into tier 1 this year. And so that might mean that we're probably back to more like what we have in the budget for FY27, which is about $10 million in tier funding. So I just want to kind of set the stage for, how the planning for the FY27 at this point doesn't look a whole lot different from where we were at in FY26. They look very similar to each other. Looking at FY27 now, we're about the same place we were last year at this time when we were looking at FY26. It's all in the ed fund, remains in the ed fund. And, we ended FY25, and this is probably a good reminder too, with a $14 million deficit in the ed fund. And I know we talked about that when we reviewed the financials, with the auditors, but we had about a $4 million core deficit in the ed fund last year, largely due to inflation pressures. And then you'll recall that we had a large $10 million unexpected expense in the medical plan, in our healthcare plans. That is not something, that we have any control over. We are what they call a self-insured plan, and that means that we're actually the claims payer on the plan. And so, when we have very high usage on the healthcare plan, that's something that we can't necessarily anticipate. We budget based on kind of historical claims experience, based on what, projections are telling us what claims might be. And, we got caught last year, and nobody's fault. Stuff like that happens sometimes, but that did. It's just a good reminder that sometimes when you don't anticipate things happening, or you try to anticipate things happening, stuff still catches you. And so, as we look toward the future, I think it's important that we know that. The deficit that we're looking at here is really, what we refer to as a structural deficit. And so just kind of in general, plain terms, it just means that we don't have the ability to generate enough revenue over an extended period of time to cover the cost of maintaining the same level of service that we've been maintaining over these past couple of years. And so when we were in the throes of COVID and we were, trying to really meet the needs of our students, we staffed up. We did not staff up with ESSER funds because we knew that those funds were not sustainable. We used local funds to be able to do those kinds of things. And we added a lot of positions that were outside of the traditional classroom, to support our kids. And so when you get to the situation that we have right now, where we do have a structural deficit, meaning we don't have the ability to generate enough revenue to continue to maintain, that level of spending, then we have to look at starting to make some reductions in the level of service that we're able to provide. And so, back last, spring and summer, we knew that this was a pending issue for us. And last summer, we initiated the DMG PRISM process. And so that gave us the opportunity to really take a deep dive at all the initiatives that we had going on in the district to really try and get a handle on everything we were doing out there, and then analyze the effectiveness of the kinds of things that we were doing. And so we really wanted to know, are we spending money on the right things? Should we shift? Do we know that we're having success with a program over here, at this level? Maybe it's not successful over here. Why is it successful here and not here? And it really gave us the opportunity over these last 6, 7, 8 months to really kind of hone in on the things that we know are working. And so, now we've had the ability to narrow our focus down to a handful of initiatives that we feel are ones that we really need to consider taking some action on. We've got it down to about 50 initiatives that we're really focused on right now. And we told you that we were going to shoot for a goal of $15 million to try and close this gap. We right now do have $15 million worth of things identified that we feel like we can implement for this next budget cycle to get to a balanced budget. It does look like there's going to be an impact on a number of positions. It could be as large as 100 positions. The good news is that we have a lot of vacant positions in the district. And so because we've taken a lot of people out of, tier 1 direct instructional classroom positions to fill some of these supplemental positions, some of those have been staffed by substitutes and things like that. We do feel we have the ability to get people back in tier 1 classrooms. And so even though that sounds like a really big number, it's not all focused at the building level. There's a good chunk that's going to be focused on the central office and also district-wide too. So, more details to come on that, at the next board meeting. But, even though it sounds like a big number, we do feel like there's a lot of vacant positions that a fair number of people are going to be able to slide into. So we also are really getting a head start on FY28. Some of the things that we haven't identified for the FY27 budget, we're going to focus on for FY28, and we've also started to build, some goals for FY28 as well, probably in that $7 to $8 million number that if you kind of looked at the long-term forecast, that's what it looked like we would probably need to do for FY28. So we're starting to identify some of those now. I think just a quick reminder for the board, we have very little control over the ability to raise revenue. So the only time that we can really raise revenue is through the property tax levy. And as you guys know from the months of discussion that we did on the levy last year, we only can increase the amount of resources that we're able to collect from the community by the consumer price index. And so the consumer price index last December when we were working on the levy was 2.9%. That gave us the ability to generate about $5.2 million in new revenue. So that's the expected revenue that's going to be coming into next year, because the levy is for December, is for the upcoming tax collections, which actually affect us for the FY27 budget. And that was a number that we had baked in when we came up with this $13.4 million deficit. So that's kind of where we're at on the process of the outlook. I do want to talk a little bit about federal funding, because when we drafted this to attach to the board, the federal funding really was very uncertain. It has become clearer, and I think there is some good news on the federal funding front. It looks like the base funds that we've received in prior years, and that would be the title funding, like Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, as well as IDEA funding, which is what we get for special education. It looks like those are all solid going into next year. So that was very good news. The kind of downside that the schools are going to feel when we do the allocations of funding out is going to be in the Title I area and a subset of Title I called 1003A. We had been allowed in previous years to carry over large sums of carryover from the COVID years that were not being used in Title I and 1003A. And so we were carrying large sums over for carryover every year. Those large sums have been dried up and extinguished. And so right now, when we get ready to push the budget templates out to the buildings, they're probably going to see somewhere in the neighborhood of $4.5 to $6 million less in Title I funding and 1003A funding. And so I am going to be talking with the principals tomorrow. We have an all-principal meeting. Literally, we just finished these calculations on Friday, so this is fresh information. And, you know, the principals are going to hear about this tomorrow, so they've got a heads up so they can start thinking about, hey, how am I going to adjust the dollars that I'm going to have available? Because there will be fewer dollars available down at the building level for discretionary purchases. So that's something that we're going to cover with them tomorrow. So state funding, the governor set to release his budget on February 18th. We think that he's probably going to be very close to that last bullet point there, where it talks about $350 million for evidence-based funding and $151 million for what they call the MCATs, or mandated categoricals. That's how we get our transportation funding from the state, and that's how we get our special education funding from the state. Now, the kind of caveat in all that is the latest revenue projection for the state of Illinois shows a $2.2 billion deficit. And so we're already hearing that it's very likely the evidence-based funding is probably going to be cut from $350 million down to $300 million. That's the allocation that was given for evidence-based funding last year. So the $50 million that they cut out of evidence-based funding for the state's FY26 budget came from what they call the property tax relief grant. And so we don't qualify for that, so we were not impacted by the reduction from 350 to 300. We likely wouldn't be impacted by it again, but it really comes down to who goes back into Tier 1. If Elgin and Carpentersville go back into Tier 1, we're very unlikely to see a tier allocation up in that $19 million range. It's probably more back in the $10 million range. So just some things that we're kind of thinking about. When we came up with that projection for the deficit of 13.4 million, we plugged in that we were going to get 10 million. So that's just kind of setting the stage for kind of where everything's at. I know I took a lot of time to talk about that, but you know, we're at a point now where we're really getting fine-tuned on you know, where we're headed here, you know, over the next couple of months with budget presentations. And so I just wanted to make sure you guys had a real clear picture of like everything that we know, literally like up to date. Like this is stuff that we are literally just getting day by day right now. Next steps, you know, here we are at the committee of the whole. You know, I don't have a preliminary list. This is, as we stated in January, this has taken us longer than we thought to really kind of nail this down and try and balance things out. We are going to be able to, at the February board meeting, provide a lot more detailed information on where we're at. So you guys will see that at the February board meeting. We are going to be working with the principals finally to kick the budget templates out now that we're done with this process. The principals and all the department heads are probably going to receive those probably the third week of February so they can start working on the budget. March, we'll be talking, you know, I'm sure more about, you know, items that we're looking at making adjustments on. And then April, you know, we're still going to shoot to try and keep the departments on that schedule so you can look at what they're coming up with April. There's a good chance this might slide by a month. We did build a month of cushion into this. So, you know, I'm hoping that you're going to see department budgets in April. It could be May, which means that the building budgets might slide until June. We've still got time. We have on here that we would do final budget approval in August. By state statute, we actually have September to be able to do that. So, you know, we will be on a timeline to be able to get the budget approved in time. And we are going to deliver the balanced budget that we promised you guys we were going to deliver. So that's all I've got. Any questions? I know that was a lot.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Dr. Brown or any discussion on the fiscal year 2027 budget? Ms. Haley, followed by Mrs. Pearson.
Dr. Brown, you spoke about potential cuts of about approximately 100 positions, but you'll be able to to move some of those around into some open positions.
Correct.
Do you foresee any actual rifts, any actual reductions in force people that?
I don't know that there's rifts as much as what the district calls surplusing, where there's just positions where people move out of those then into another one. So there may be on, like, not at the school level there, but in this, you know, honestly, in non-certified positions, I think there is a very good possibility there will be rifts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Brown, first of all, thank you for your hard work. I know that I was been singing a song a long time regarding the budget, and you put in a lot of work. So you look like you're making progress, and we certainly appreciate that. Did you notice any positions of individuals that had dual roles? Did you?
Dual roles, probably not dual roles, I think, in this. I'd have to go back and look.
Okay.
Yeah.
So specifically looking for a person that may have two titles.
Yeah, I don't recall any of those.
Okay.
To be honest with you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry, President.
Thank you. Yeah, echoing Ms. Pearson's comments about thank you for your hard work on this. I know this is a difficult job. I did want to ask the evidence-based funding number. When you talked about a few different timelines, I think, and so you said May was something,
Sure.
And then
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yep. So what happened in May last year was the state actually approved the budget, but they don't finish the calculations of the distribution of the evidence-based tiered funding out to districts until generally like the latter part of July or the early part of August. So even though we knew that they had approved $300 million for tiered funding increases, we didn't really know how the districts were going to stack up because ISB had not finished those calculations yet. So we actually found out those numbers at the end of July, first part of August, and that's when we knew that we had gotten that extra $9.5 million.
And that's when and that was basically when you found out that U46 and 300 went to tier
Exactly.
2. Okay.
Yeah. And like U46, I don't quote me on this. It was between 15 and 18 million dollars that U46 lost from going from tier 1 to tier 2. It was a huge hit for them.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was asking.
Ms. Haley?
You mentioned that that $10 million, the healthcare, where we weren't expecting to pay that out.
Right.
Is there, and there's no way to foresee anything like that going forward?
Well, we do watch our claims really, really close. And so, you know, what happened was because we're a self-insured plan, we have what's called a stop loss in place. And so, you know, our stop loss limit is set such that if we have a catastrophic claim, and I believe it's $375,000, if we have a claim that's over that, then our plan actually gets reimbursed. So let's say that we would have had a claim for you know, $3,750,000. You know, we would have gotten reimbursed for everything over $375,000. The issue that we had last year was we had a bunch of claims that were $375,000 versus like one catastrophic one that was $3.75 million. And so those all hit us. We don't get any kind of a reimbursement on that. There is an aggregate reimbursement that kicks in over a certain amount of the claims, and that actually did kick in last year, and we did get some reimbursement back on aggregate claims. But you usually have to be over 120% of your total claims experience to actually have the aggregate kick in, and we really didn't get hardly anything back on that. So, you know, when you're a self-insured plan like that, you are taking the risk, you know, up to a certain dollar amount, and we just had a bunch of claims that were just underneath that. So, and there's no way to anticipate that. you know, and I think we're still seeing some of the post-COVID, you know, stuff when, you know, people stopped going to the doctor in 2020, 2021, and a lot of people didn't start going back to the doctor until 23 and 24. And sometimes that delay in diagnosis resulted in a much, much more expensive claim because, you know, diseases got more advanced, whereas they would have probably previously gotten caught earlier and probably been a lot more treatable than some of them ended up being. And so we've seen that kind of experience play out. I think that's largely kind of playing itself out, and we're hoping that this year is not going to be the case. The other thing, as you recall, is we had a lot of claims for what they call off schedule use for medications that were prescribed, and that was primarily GLP-1s. And we were having a lot of those. Those are supposed to be for diabetes medication because our plan does not cover weight loss drug. And so what was happening was we were getting a lot of those being prescribed, and we had $4 million more in those just last year than we did in the previous year on just the GLP-1s. And that had a big, you know, hit to our prescription drug costs in the plan. So, you know, that was something that we worked with Blue Cross Blue Shield on last spring, you know, to make sure that, you know, they were doing like the pre-authorization and making sure they were following A1C guidelines to be able to prescribe those drugs and do those kinds of things so we weren't getting the off-schedule use, you know, on some of those medications. And so I think that's really starting to have an impact. First 3 months we didn't really see it because what you have is you have these things called run-out claims, which are things that happen like in May and June, but don't get paid until like July and August and things like that. So really where we started to see it was like October, November, December. Like that's when we started to see it kind of tail off. And you can see from the monthly presentations, that gap's starting to close on budget versus where we were at. So we think that there is a slowdown on that, but we'll really know more probably in March. So, but the gap's closing a little bit, which is good.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Dr. Brown will continue to keep the board updated on the fiscal year 2027 budget process. Item B, transfer from working cash fund to capital project fund. Attached for the board's review is the resolution to transfer the bond proceeds from working cash fund to the O&M fund and then to the capital projects fund. The bond closing is scheduled for February 5th, 2026. Are there any questions for Dr. Brown? Seeing none, the resolution to approve the transfer from the working cash fund to the capital projects fund will be brought forward for a vote at the February 17th, 2026 board meeting. Item C, resolution and intergovernmental agreement for the property transfer to the Rockford Park District for the Bloom Park Playground project. I will now turn the floor over to Mr. Phillips to provide information on the property transfer.
Yeah, so if everybody remembers, in December, the board approved the MOU with the Park District for this transfer. This is just now the resolution and IGA of transferring just a little over an acre to the Park District to upgrade the playground. And the benefit to Bloom is that the playground will be much closer to the building and more accessible to our students.
Are there any questions for Mr. Phillips? Seeing none, the resolution and the intergovernmental agreements for the property transfer will be brought forward for a vote at the February 17th, 2026 board meeting. Item D, intergovernment agreement, IGA, with the City of Rockford for site logistics work at Lincoln Middle School. I will now turn the floor over to Mr. Phillips to provide information on the IGA with the City of Rockford.
Yeah, so this was originally on the January board or the committee of the whole, but we had to pull it because we are still working through the intergovernmental agreement with the city. We are at the point now that we can bring this forward. I know at the last committee of the whole, there was a couple questions, one about Lincoln and one about sidewalks off of West State. So if it's all right, I'd like to just kind of update that. So Ms. Bennett, you were asking about some crosswalks near West and near this project. So while they are not included in this specific project. We continue to work with the city and the Traffic Commission to look at adding another crosswalk closer to the crest of the hill on Charles Street. But that it's not part of this current project. But I did want to update you that we continue to work. Ms. Pearson, on West State, the city has designed and is prepared to bid a project that is adding sidewalks from Concord Commons on the south side of West State Street to the corner of West State and Pierpont, and then also adding a sidewalk where there is missing sidewalk as you head north on North Pierpont, along with crossing signals at that main stoplight there. Unfortunately, the reason why that has been on hold for the past year, the city is trying to procure some property that is currently owned by the Rockford Housing Authority and HUD, and that's where the sticking point is right now, and that is closer, it's the south of West State, closer to Concord Commons there, where they need to obtain that property. So I continue to work with the city to try to get updates. If anybody knows anybody on the Rockford Housing Authority that maybe we could encourage some work with the city, that's when I talked to them, they said they have the project designed and ready to bid. It's just that property acquisition.
Ms. Bennett?
Thank you for the update. If we're continuing our wish list idea, I would like to once again bring up the space between Guilford and Spring Creek. So the speed limit area there, and then it not being a school zone, was brought to my attention by a parent over the weekend. Same thing for farther down by Eisenhower. That's also not a school zone, and it's very fast there. So when children are leaving Spring Creek in particular, there's not crosswalks to cross there. Same thing for Guilford. There's one farther down, but that's pretty far for children to walk. And I think the speed limit is 45. So I know it went to city council already, but I will just continue to advocate because very small children go to that school, and I think it's very, very unsafe. We've done a lot of work in that school in particular to make it safe for entrance and exit, but we can't really do anything else beyond that, and I'll just continue to advocate for it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips, for the update.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Rockford will be brought forward for a vote at the February 17th, 2026 board meeting. I will now move on to item 7, the preview of consent items. Below is the consent agenda item for the Planning and Development Committee. Item A, IFB-26-22, Conklin ES asbestos abatement. And that will complete the report for the Planning and Development Committee. Thank you guys for listening. I had my tooth pulled earlier, so excuse any of the mistakes that I made, but thank you.
You did great. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. McCall. We're now moving on to the Governance Committee. Item 8, starting with item 8A, which is Board Policy 5.90, Abused and Neglected Child Reporting, which has proposed revisions in response to statutory changes by changing the term child pornography to child sexual abuse material, and to clarify the definition of electronic and information technology equipment. Does anyone have any questions about this proposal? Thank you. Moving on to the next item, 8B 5.300, language. The proposal has language that's added to reflect a change in Illinois law requiring employees to be paid for reasonable time needed to express breast milk. Are there any questions? Thank you. Item 5C is Board Policy 6.20, School Year Calendar and Day. And that has proposed revisions to remove the requirement that on each commemorative holiday, a portion of the school day be devoted to study and honor the commemorated person or occasion. Are there any questions on that proposal? Thank you. 8D is Board Policy 6.60, Curriculum Content, which has a number of proposed revisions required by state law, including that in all grades, revisions to the Comprehensive Health Education Program program and abduction education. In grades 9 through 12, the curriculum must include training and instruction on the dangers of allergies and CPR training. Are there any questions on that proposal? Seeing none, moving on to item 8E, which is Board Policy 6.300, graduation requirements. The proposed revisions to that policy include revisions to redefine the required components of the Illinois Constitution test. Are there any questions on that policy? Seeing none, moving to Board Policy 7.70, attendance and truancy, where there are proposed revisions to, in response to statutory changes, requiring that the district develop an approval process to excuse students attending certain activities beginning no later than the beginning of the 2026-27 school year. Also, there's proposed language added to require the district to establish in writing a set of criteria to use in determining whether a pupil's failure to attend school is the result of extraordinary circumstances, including but not limited to economic or medical necessity or family hardship. Are there any questions on that policy? Ms. Bennett.
Would, for item, on page 2, for item 13 and 14, I suppose, would these also, would this also be in relation to the attendance policy at the special programs? That would, yes. Okay, Attorney Goldsmith is saying yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Board Policy 7.190, which is item 8G, student discipline. It has proposed revisions to require staff to report any threat of gun violence on school grounds, to attempt to notify parents and guardians of the threat made by a student, and to ensure that the student does not have access to a firearm. Are there any questions on that? Moving on to 8H, Board Policy 7.290, which is suicide and depression awareness and prevention. This policy is proposed to be revised to align with changes to 6.60 curriculum content, which now requires education for students on mental health and illness. Are there any questions on that proposed policy change? Seeing none, we'll move on to government consent items, 8A and 8B, which are meeting minutes and freedom of information logs. Are there any questions on those? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to the next item, which is item 10, petitions and communications, where we invite the public to make comments. The board policy regarding comments at committee of the whole is contained in policy 2.150, which states that public participation at committee meetings shall be permitted by a maximum of 5 members of the public. Each member of the public may speak for up to 5 minutes each at each meeting. A written request to address the committee must be submitted to the coordinator, to the board, must be submitted to the coordinator to the board no later than 5 p.m. on the Friday immediately preceding the committee meeting in which the member would like to speak, and no earlier than 1 week prior to the meeting on the form, which is posted on the district's website at www.rps205.com. Slurs, profanity, and harassment will not be tolerated. Should any speaker use unacceptable language, they may be directed to immediately surrender the remainder of their speaking time. The board will not respond to the comments at this time. If it is appropriate, you'll be contacted in a timely manner by staff. Again, each speaker will be allowed no more than 5 minutes. And it's not appropriate to discuss matters that would otherwise be confidential at open meetings. There are 2 digital clocks present. One shows the total time allotted and one shows the time for each speaker. We thank you for your cooperation with our guidelines. The first speaker is Emily Tran.
Mr. Carpenter, we have a clock malfunction, so I will have the 5-minute clock here on my phone. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you, Mr. Phillips.
Good evening. My name is Emily Tran, and I serve as an instructional leader at Jackson Charter School. I began my work at Jackson as a classroom teacher, and over the years, I've worked under 3 different principals. I share this to say that the growth and stability we are seeing now is the strongest that I have experienced in my tenure. Jackson serves a population with significant academic needs, and like many schools that have undergone a turnaround year, we have faced challenges. What matters most is not where our school starts, but whether it is able to build the systems necessary to sustain long-term growth. Over the past year, Jackson has worked very hard at doing just that. I have been able to implement a structured MTSS framework and a system that did not exist prior to 2023. This allows us to target student needs early and work with teachers on adjusting Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 instruction. While we support the needs of our existing student population, we have many students that transfer mid-year. Of the students that transfer to us mid-year, over half are identified for Tier 2 MTSS within 12 weeks of attending Jackson. All of our work is working to improve our instruction so that it's better aligned across our classrooms. Our teachers are better equipped with stronger knowledge of their data. They're provided professional development opportunities and lots of coaching to support students in real time. As a result of these ongoing changes, we have been able to see meaningful academic growth. Our IAR growth at the end of the last year is where I really started to see change. Not only did our meets and exceeds expectations improve in reading and math, but our approaching category for students in reading tripled from 15% approaching in 2024 to 45% in the last year. Our school-wide Tier 2 interventions are strong. As of 2 weeks ago, with our middle of the year testing data, we're seeing 85% of students who are receiving foundational skills instruction show growth. The past year represents a true turnaround year. It's not the finish line, but the point in which systems we have built begin to take hold and outcomes will start to follow. The momentum is fragile and dependent on continuity. This is why a 5-year charter renewal cycle is important. It allows Jackson to stabilize and refine our instructional practices. Charter schools play an important role in communities by providing families with choice and additional opportunities for their scholars. We are on the right track with Jackson as we continue to improve our student outcomes. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Haley Braconier. Sorry about that. Braconier.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Haley Braconier, and I'm the Student Services Manager at Jackson Charter School. I manage the Special Education Department. This is my 4th year at Jackson and my 3rd position. I started as a classroom teacher and then started and ran our MTSS program that Ms. Tran now runs. And I have been running the Special Education Department for the last year and a half. In my time at Jackson, I have seen significant change in our practices and our student outcomes school-wide and specifically within the Special Education Department. We currently have 40 students with an IEP or 504 at Jackson, which means 18% of our student population receives special education services in some capacity. Over the last 2 years, we have worked diligently to improve our procedures, processes, connections, and instructional practices to improve learning outcomes for our students with disabilities. We have implemented new tracking systems to monitor student growth towards their IEP goals, due dates, and communications sent to our families. Our school is now compliant with evaluation and communication deadlines, which was not the case prior to our reign. Sorry, I lost my spot. We have communicated with our student families has significantly improved, and I know they have more trust in our school than they did 2 years ago. We provide resources for our students to use at home with their families, as well as partnerships with counseling services that are provided during and outside of school. One of the things I persistently pursue is a partnership with Rockford Public Schools Special Education Department. Members of your team in various positions graciously answer a ton of questions. And the reason that and provide resources. The reason this is crucial is because it allows us to align our practices with the districts. Not only are we improving our compliance with the state and federal laws, we are also adopting practices from RPS for continuity across the city. I work closely with our MTSS team to ensure students with academic and behavioral needs are receiving proper Tier 2 and Tier 3 support before being referred to the special education team. Our special education teachers and I provide our teachers with instructional resources and support in providing modifications and accommodations during instruction, on assignments, and on homework. Our teachers receive continuous professional development in implementing IEPs and 504s and instructional practices that support diverse learners. While we still have goals we are striving towards, we have made significant improvements that directly impact learning outcomes for our students with disabilities. 48% of our diverse learners have shown an average or above average growth on the reading NWEA assessment from the fall of 2024 to the fall of 2025. 92% of students with academic services are making significant progress towards one or more of their goals. 95% of students receiving academic services have shown positive growth on NWEA so far this week. On IAR, our diverse learners demonstrated an average of double-digit growth from the 2023 school year to the 2024-2025 school year. These improvements in our data are the results of changed processes and practices. These processes take time. A longer charter renewal cycle of 5 years would allow our systems to take root and grow. As we continue to implement our changes, our students will excel exponentially. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Erica Hanna is our next speaker. Erica Hanna. John Spirito Santo will be our next speaker.
Good evening. My name is John Spiritisano, and I'm a Guilford High School senior. And I, along with many other students, have come to acknowledge the issue of class ranking. Last week, when the first semester transcripts came out, I and multiple other seniors learned that we had dropped by a few ranks. Counselors were bombarded with emails, and quickly we learned that they were in the dark as well. Before this semester, I was tied for third with at least one other student, and I knew that 2 others would end their senior year with the same GPA and rank as me. Now, all 4 of us will be ranked 5th, our valedictorian and salutatorian at 3rd and 4th, while 2 Running Start students will be ranked 1st and 2nd. This is because no matter how many weighted classes we take at Guilford, or how hard we try, we could never have been ranked above them. We were very confused when we learned that they were going to be included because there was an understanding among staff and students that the Running Start students would not be a part of our ranking. Myself, along with the other Guilford students, have worked very hard to achieve our high ranks. We've all had very similar schedules full of AP classes with hours of homework, and as a result, have built a very tight community. The 2 students who are now ranked 1st and 2nd have not attended the high school since at least sophomore year. They have not experienced the same schooling, had the same teachers, or worked in the same environment as us. For example, Guilford students are required to take a pathway class, most of which are unweighted, whereas all of the classes taken at RVC are weighted. How can their efforts be effectively compared to ours? Through my contact with the administration and counselors, it is clear that the original intention was not to include Running Start students in the rankings, and your willingness to keep the valedictorian and salutatorian spots for Guilford students shows that you recognize an issue with the comparison. And so I ask, what happened? The only reasoning I've been given from administration is that the system, Power School, which is used to rank students, does not allow for the removal of specific students. This excuse is unacceptable. This is not the first year students have been upset with the inclusion of Running Start students, so for the issue to be chalked up to a system problem suggests nothing but a lack of will. If this system is so restrictive, then why do we use it? If it does not follow the intentions of our administration or the wants of the students, it is the responsibility of the board to find a better system. This also begs the question, if Power School is unable to separate Running Start students, why did the administration suggest that they would be removed? Such a massive miscommunication is inexcusable. It gives the idea to us students that you wanted to quietly ignore your mistake and evade accountability for an uninformed promise. This is not the first time that the rug has been pulled from under the feet of your best students. We felt this way when you changed the grading system to 90-10, and again when droves of classes were moved to the experimental quad, and we continue to feel this way with the impending teacher strike. Situations like this make succeeding difficult, which reflects horribly on our district. I ask Chris Taskey, Jason Barthel, and any other RPS stakeholder in the technology department to reach out to PowerSchool and find a solution. If us students can push ourselves to take every opportunity we can to succeed at RPS 205, we hope that you are willing to have our effort be accurately displayed in our rankings. While it may not seem like a big deal to drop 2 ranks, that small drop can lead to the loss of thousands of dollars in scholarships for us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Christina Rudolph.
My name is Christina Rudolph. Tonight I am here to speak as a mother of 3 children in the district, a graduate of RPS 205, a former PTO president, a current Booster Club member, a community member, and finally, someone who thinks that the RPS 205 teachers deserve a fair contract. I am very involved in my children's education and have seen firsthand how hard the teachers of RPS work. This job is not one that only happens during school hours. Many teachers work all summer, over holiday breaks, and on nights and weekends to ensure their students receive the best education possible. There is preparation and loads of effort that go into this role. Teachers today do not have an easy job. They are working with students that need constant engagement and live in a world that is completely digital. Gone are the days of reading a textbook and answering questions at the end of the chapter. Education is being tailored to each student's needs and is not a cookie-cutter approach, which is time-consuming. Today's students want to see education in action, and teaching has become an even more difficult job. Teachers are the driving force behind the education of our students, yet they seem to be an afterthought and priority. The only way to improve test scores and learning is to have the classroom staffed with qualified teachers and control the class sizes. My children have had teachers who were forced to teach 6 periods or had long-term subs because they couldn't fill the roles. Yet the district office is filled with over 200 employees, a number that has quadrupled over the last 10 years. I understand that some additional positions may have been necessary, but since the number of students in the district and the number of schools has not quadrupled, it doesn't seem to make sense that the district office would have needed so many additional positions, especially ones that tend to pay high dollar salaries. Rockford teachers make less than neighboring districts like Hononegah and Belvedere and have pay well below average when compared to other Illinois districts of similar size. Nearly 1 in 4 Rockford teachers has a second or even third job to support themselves. Failure to invest in our schools and the teachers is causing 205 to lose quality teachers at a rapid pace. You are training them, but cannot retain them. Nearly 70% of your current teachers have thought of leaving RPS 205 because of low wages, a lack of respect, and an increasing workload. Now RPS is faced with a looming strike. What type of message does that send to potential new teachers to the district? You mentioned that there's 62 student teachers. Who is going to want to come and teach for RPS, knowing that they do not support their employees or pay them a fair wage? We are in the middle of a teacher shortage, and if the salaries are not competitive, we are not able to attract and retain qualified educators. The starting salary for teachers needs to be fair and competitive, but you must compensate the teachers that have continued to further their education and climb the step pay scale also. Teachers cannot reach a point on the pay scale where raises become minimal or non-existent. They cannot be expected to make less each year as the cost of living rises. These experienced staff members are the ones who help guide new teachers and provide mentorship and wisdom to make a new teacher better, faster. The teachers on the top of the pay scale should not be put out to pasture. They should be rewarded. They are the ones who have built the great success that is RPS 205 and are the reasons that students succeed. So how are you going to pay the new and existing teachers a fair wage? By making some major changes. Currently, you are spending over $14 million to pay a staffing agency to fill open teaching positions. My children have worked with some of these outsourced teachers, and the education component has been less than stellar. They are trying to improve speech delays through a computer screen. By not paying a staff agency $14 million, that would go a long way to staff in-person openings. Another way to afford the proposed salaries is to make some necessary cuts. The district office staff has quadrupled. Are all those positions really necessary, and are they worthy of top-tier salaries? And why am I so passionate about this? Because I'm the daughter of 2 retired RPS teachers, one of whom was also an administrator. My parents walked the picket line to fight for a fair contract with me by their side. They gave their hearts and souls to their jobs, just like many teachers today. They were able to watch thousands of students go out and leave their mark on the world because of the wonderful start they received as students in the Rockford Public School District. Our teachers deserve a fair and livable wage, and it is your job to ensure that it happens.
Thank you. Because one of our speakers wasn't here, we can move. There's a couple other people that had requested. Is C. Allison Jack here, who was next on the list. And then Tamir Bell was next on the list, but he's shaking his head no. Craig Corcoran.
What a surprise. All right, I had lots of speeches prepared, but we'll go with this one. Good evening. I want to begin with a concept the district uses often when discussing compensation: market value. Market value pay is competitive wage for a role based on skills, responsibilities, location, and demand. It reflects what comparable employers pay to recruit and retain qualified professionals. The district regularly uses this standard to explain compensation decisions, emphasizing the need to remain competitive in the labor market. The same principle matters across the entire organization. Educators and student-facing professionals operate in the same labor market. Teachers, counselors, nurses, librarians, and other staff represented under the REA by our bargaining unit are recruited by surrounding districts. We face increasing workload demands and are essential to student outcomes. Market pressures do not stop at the classroom door. The REA is requesting salary increases that have totaled roughly $12 million with the 3 years agreement. The district has stated publicly that this would push finances beyond sustainable limits. But that framing does not tell the full story. Using the district's own combined financial model, we see projected operating deficits. We also see something equally important: combined operating fund balances stabilizing at approximately $180 million. In other words, the district's financial plan already accounts for operating deficits while maintaining very strong reserves. The relevant question is not whether a deficit appears in a given year. The responsible question is whether reserves remain sufficient after investments are made. According to the district's own projections, they do. Deficits are already being managed. Reserves remain stable. The proposal adjusts the size of the planned deficit, not the financial safety of the district. $12 million represents roughly 3% of annual operating expenditures. There is no insolvency. There is no liquidity. There's no threat of state intervention. There was no structural instability. This is a question of priorities, not capacity. I also want to address the issue of trust and follow-through. The association's compensation requests include how and when increases take effect. They are publicly outlined on both the district's website and Illinois Educator Labor Relations Board pages. They're not new or hidden expectations. They're documented, transparent, and known to all parties. Equally important is member voice. In October, a tentative agreement was presented to the educators, and they chose not to ratify it. Since then, the association conducted another survey, complete on January 12th, with strong participation. More than 75% of voting members expressed alignment, what we believe is needed to settle a contract. These results have been shared with the district. This is not uncertainty, this is clarity. We are asking the board to encourage movement that reflects market realities and the district's actual financial capacity and clearly express will of the professionals who serve students every day. We want a settlement, we want stability, and we want to continue doing our work with dignity, professionalism, and commitment to this community. The district has the capacity. What you need now is the will. Thank you.
Thank you. I would now take a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Have a good night.